Okay. But you can still go through the other procedure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So the petitions can be one, but, maybe it's just here.
Okay.
For town. For you.
Yeah.
That's good. That.
Still busy. Doesn't change much.
I know,
Really?
well, your office, you sent you a letter of support.
I always have a cola shirt, right? I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Where did you get that one?
You're more than
I
welcome.
think it's, I do handle
Okay.
Stay busy. I won't be, I'm shooting this week. Won't be next week.
Yeah.
So, but if Levi's runs about 1,000, that's good. Okay, otherwise, but I ain't where anybody can give them to. I gotta start.
Let's think the weather's Phil.
Fantastic.
Is Richie back? I think he was on a little trip.
He travels quite often. He's out of town this week, actually, down in Florida. But, yeah, about every other week.
This too. He's happy.
He does. Yeah.
Wait, second me already?
Number of big
I
trucks.
said, what, second me already?
We're lucky to have him though.
Have a nice
He's the other ones and leave it.
You said, I just laid this out.
I don't mind that being.
You do.
Well, you know my,
Sorry.
day by day, he does well. I know he does. Representative Thomas, I'm just thanking him for his effort on House bill that's gonna help improve that concern.
What section?
6119. So that should ease his concern. Gives us a tool. Everything at the county. Managing.
We're getting better.
See, we have some.
It's not one now. Yeah. Same thing here. It's all about money.
Yeah, same thing. You're right. Fundamentally. Fundamentally.
You don't have. Can't fix my.
You got four. The Cheryl, she's set him
We're
for
so
somebody
limited
for
in the way
Bobby.
can fix it.
McBride.
It's more that revenue.
She sent him for McBride.
Do you know what section is this?
I don't. Matt has not said. Do you know what section he's proposing to change for the regionalization here?
Presently it's 61.
Yeah, 6115 is what runs the MBSD. That's what the MBSD is under.
Okay. Are you looking at the regionalization for the county?
Yeah, that's
That's-
what we, over, right.
There is 6119 that already prescribes that.
6115. It's the only regional entity in the entire state. You know.
Correct. That statute was written specifically for the Mahoning Valley, actually. But 6119 authorizes regionalization for water and sewer also. Yeah. We looked at many years ago when we were dealing with some annexation issues, many years ago. That's one of the options.
The 6115 is what governs you all.
It covered,
No, 6103 for county water. County water system, 6103.
Great, I haven't seen 30 days. How you doing? It's your grandma and grandpa. Yeah. Okay. Call the meeting to order. I don't believe my show. I don't believe. that I'm going to call attendance. Bob McBride. Here. Jeff Tucker. Dan Suttles. James and Paula. Jason Tidrow. Devin Stanley. Charlie Hagman. Bill Pegg.
Here.
Ryan Yoho. Richard Harkins.
On here on his behalf, but I don't know if that counts. Doesn't. Okay.
Regardless, we don't have. I'm sure. All right, as you can see by the agenda, we're here to discuss water regionalization. Just a quick recap on how we got here. Meeting support and I brought a topic of regionalization. When I was head of the sanitary engineers, I have to admit, I was not a fan. I felt that, this could support themselves, but it's, I'm a member of this board and talking with Gary and his staff. I see the bulk water increases they've been experiencing and how that has affected the meter rates. I don't think we don't want supporting those kind of rate increases. Our residents absorbed. So there was discussion and a committee met there. Build the board in on issues regarding 6115 and 6119. Before we get into it, I'd like to thank Representative Dave Trumbull for being here, taking the time out of his busy schedule. I believe also we have Aiden Ellis from Nick Santucci's office on video link. And I'd also like to thank Bill Pegg for organizing this. Yeah.
Well, Aiden's not supposed to be working today. He's a good one.
Yeah.
Nick and I actually share.
Oh, so Matt, do you want to go ahead and get started on that? 115?
First, yeah, I guess we should talk about 6115 first. Most of you know, I was the president of the MVSD for 21 years, so I'm pretty familiar with 6115. That is the statute that formed the MVSD. The MVSD is the largest water provider in this section of Ohio. They currently pump between 29 to 31 million gallons a day. We should point out that they have a 60 million gallon a day capacity. So they're not even close to capacity. One of the interesting things about the MVSD was that it was formed years ago by Niles and Youngstown. And they needed a sufficient water supply. That we had a blooming steel industry at that time, and they needed all this additional capacity, so they got together and they formed the MVSD, which is the only water purification source that was created by 6115. There are no other entities under 6115 in the state of Ohio. This is the only one. And because McDonald had McDonald Steel at the time, they did not become a member city, but they did become the only contract recipient of MVSD water directly. So McDonald gets pretty much the same rate that Niles and Youngstown gets. And that leads to what we talk about. We've been talking about it for years, clear back. I'm one of the oldest serving members of the Chamber of Commerce, but I can tell you even way back when Tom Humphreys was the head of the chamber, regionalization was something we talked about all the time. Okay, here's your problem here in the valley. What happens is the MVSD sells water to Youngstown and Niles at far discounted rates as to what you people pay. Okay, the townships pay. and McDonald as well. We sell the water at great rates to them. And they then sell water to other entities. And Youngstown, with Youngstown, it's not quite as bad because Youngstown, pretty much, they have all the transmission lines all through Mahoney County. So pretty much they sell what we call it surplus water. They sell the surplus water directly to Canfield and to these other communities, but it's directly coming from Youngstown. So there's only the one markup. But when you get into Trumbull County, it really gets interesting because what happens in Trumbull County is we sell water to the Niles, and then Niles sells water to Girard, and then Girard sells water to Liberty, Mr. Stanley. And each time this happens, there's a substantial markup on the water. And for this is something that's been going on for years. So it impedes economic development because it's when you look at this, if you're going to do a project in Liberty, it's very difficult because the cost of the water is like the highest in the state, probably the whole state of Ohio. Okay, but not because the water costs that much, but because
That's not good.
yeah, okay, not because the water costs that much. It's the same exact water that went to Niles. Okay, so at the discount rates. So we've had this situation. One of the largest scandals in Ohio history years ago took place about 1996. I don't know how many of you were around then. That was the MBSD scandal at those days. And they went back, and June Lucas from Mineral Ridge went back and rewrote the law. And they changed it and they created what was called an advisory committee. Now, with the advisory committee, I think, Gary, you're on the advisory committee. Yeah, this was, they brought me in and I became the director of the NBSD at this time. And we were doing all these reforms. It was directed by the state auditor's office. We went through performance audits and one of our directors went to jail and everything else. But we put all these new formats in to protect it. But this advisory committee was one of the things that was, came from that legislation in 1998. Okay. And the advisory committee is a member of each of the communities that purchase surplus water from the MVSD, okay, which is actually they purchase surplus water from Youngstown and Niles, okay. So they're on this advisory committee. And then it's very similar to this organization, actually, when this was formed, when I was looking at the bylaws and stuff for this organization, I was actually working off of the bylaws for the MVSD advisory committee because this idea was the same idea that they had back then, which you would have an organization who would review how the charges and what the expenditures were being made for, that type of thing. But I can tell you, one of the interesting things is that Tom Holloway and I, who used to be the sanitary engineer, he became chief engineer at the MBSD. We often talked about, why we don't get into something where we regionalize it and the advisory committee becomes members of the MBSD. That is something you're going to have to talk to Niles and Youngstown about because they're the two member cities at this point. Okay, but that would make you more of a regional type of organization. Thinking that would be very difficult to do. I also looked at Ohio Revised Code 6119, which is the statute that they have up. They implemented it in Toledo and down in Columbus, and that deals with utilization of water, and that's would probably be more something that along those lines is what we would have to be looking at. But I can tell you, all these 6119 organizations, it's like a 5-6 year process before you. But from the time you start the process until you actually have an organization. But this is just something I can tell you. We talk about it at the chamber all the time. It really does impact this valley. It does not make us competitive. This problem, we can't compete with areas who have addressed this issue and have regionalized and done what they needed to do to be corrected. I mean, we should, in my view, not only we should be regionalizing water, but we should also regionalizing sewer. Is another issue, because perhaps you understand that too. Yeah, it's like, it's, these are issues that if we could address them and get, everybody together in a real confident fashion and take a look at the issues, we could come up with a solution. One of the things I can share with you that Tom Holloway and I talked about quite often was, how do you compensate now at Youngstown if you do regionalize? They funded the MVSD in the beginning, okay? Well, if you look at the transmission lines, that Niles and Youngstown still would be able to receive monies for the use of the transmission lines, because they do own the transmission lines that get the water out to the county and that type of thing. So you could work it out some way that they would receive additional compensation for use of the transmission lines. Now, this is a novel idea that I came up with. Actually, if you look at your gas bills, East Ohio Gas still owns, you don't get your gas bill anymore from East Ohio Gas, but they still own the transmission lines, okay? So, and they are still making money from the transmission lines. So these are things that, I would recommend. And I mean, obviously, at some point, we'd have to form some type of task force and start looking at either amending 6115, which is your existing regional district, or forming a 6119 regionalization. The other, in the short term, there is one other fix. And this is
What's that?
Saving these, putting them back now.
there is another fix that I don't know if I can talk to you about this, but I've been really thinking about this. Okay, when we buy water, you got to keep in mind where the cities are selling their water. They're selling their water based on the cost of the infrastructure. So that when they sell water to Youngstown residents or Niles residents, that includes, you have to think about, they have their own transmission lines in the city, they have their own hookups and that type of thing. Now, so when the water leaves the city of Niles or the city of Youngstown and it becomes surplus water, okay, and it's going out into our systems, we're maintaining those systems, okay? We have to pay for the cost of maintaining those systems. So when you hear people talking about, we're going to sell our surplus water at the cost of our inside residents plus 20% or 30% or 40%, it's hard to explain what justifies those increases, because when you look at it from a practical standpoint, the city is not paying for maintaining that infrastructure. So actually, the water being sold outside the city, in my view, should be sold at a rate below the inside rate, because your outside entity is maintaining the facilities to distribute that water. But so we could look at legislation that would, in the short term, even before regionalization, cap what a water seller can charge for surplus water outside its boundary.
Correct, because if you give them 40%, they're gonna go all the way to 40%. You give them 60%, they're gonna go all the way to 60%. You give them 70%, they're gonna go all the way to 70%. That's the justification of what the cost actually is. Meaning, I get that they put the lines in, they maintain it, if they break those types of things. But because the statute allows them to mark up 40% on top of 40%, they just go to the max. There's no justification for what that is. Whereas a pass-through tax or a pass-through cost that says, hey, the water's passing through these entities, fix it at 50% fixed cost, would be more beneficial to the end user. Liberty has 3 different water bills when you think about it. We have county water, we have Youngstown water, and we have Girard water by way of Niles water. 3 different rates. Doesn't make sense to the end users.
No,
Same water line.
No, it doesn't.
Just owned by different entities.
That's the regionalization concept. We need to look at how we regionalize, and keep in mind, these facilities were paid off years ago, okay? And now with regard to the MVSD, obviously we're in the middle of major dam renovation right now out there. But this is an area that, really, if, and I really stress this, if our representatives could get together and start looking at some type of plan, okay? This is going to, if we can put this in place, it's gonna change, it's a game changer for this, for the valley, because we will become much more competitive with other areas where you can't, it's hard to come here because, you know, you go to Niles, you get one rate. You go to, the county, you get another rate. And if you end up with, I don't, I have to tell you, I was.
Gerard will occasionally give a consumer, a large consumer of bulk water.
Yeah, but if you get to Liberty, you wonder, like, you know, how would you ever do it at Liberty?
We have a car wash.
Yeah, we got to deal with them. But, yeah, so it's, but those are, I mean, it's I know Phil, I have to tell everybody, Phil Pegg has been pushing this for, I don't know, how many years ago? And the other part of it that people don't realize is that a lot of the cities use water as a weapon, okay? It's a very good way to, you can annex property, and it's a great way to annex property and that type of thing. I don't know that, you know, if it was a situation, I mean, it's just one of these situations that if you look at it if you look at it from, just even talking about Liberty, I negotiated with Gerard on that contract. Okay. You know, there was Mayor Melfi at the time, looked at me and said, Matt, we'll give them the same rate as you were there. We'll give them the same rate. Just annex it. Just annex it to Gerard and give them the same rate.
And to his defense, when he was there, one of the things I talked to him about was, he's like, Devin, I created my heat, but Gerard created certain lines that weren't getting used yet.
Yeah.
Before Shepherd Valley came. So that's like $100,000 or $200,000 investment just
Yeah.
laying in the ground, waiting for an end user. Well, they made the money back, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that's the investment that they justified why they did what they did. I've promised to work with, the state representatives to find a solution long-term. It engenders a little bit of distrust. I'm going to share a personal story that's kind of important. It engenders a little bit of distrust. In order for me to buy my house, there was actually no water meter in my house. It was a house that didn't buy because two people got divorced. So I asked the realtor, I said, hey, can I come in and put a compression fitting where the little split in the line is, so you can put a water meter in there. I'll take a picture of running water. My bank will finance my house because it's got running water, and I'll buy the house. So I do that. I do that. Maybe a year into my water bill, and I get a call from Gerard that they want to put in a new digital meter. And I'm like, no problem, come on in. Next time I got my bill, it was like 3.5, 4 times more. And I'm like, the same two people taking the same amount of showers, doing the same thing every day. Got to be an issue. So long story short, they try to, as they are trained to do, I think, try to convince me that a toilet's leaking. Like, you know, genius, I would know if my toilet's leaking because I would hear it. Not to mention his new digital meter you gave me actually has a little icon. If there's water flowing through it, there's no water flowing through it right now. That means it's not leaking. Second of all, when I flush the toilet, which is a 3 to 5 gallon energy tank, it says I flushed 15 gallons. Any idea why that would be happening? Long story short, oh, well, we put the wrong head on the meter. You accidentally are paying more. I might be the only person to complain. It doesn't mean all the other people that got new digital meters were correct. Only the complainers get a look-see. It engenders distrust when you're getting by Gerard. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of distrust there. Just want to share that story because I have to deal with 1,500 customers that are all upset every election cycle.
Where is that water tower that Gerard refurbished? Supposedly they took out bonds for it, because that was one of their excuses.
Oh, the one along to the Twig.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's right there by Klein's Farm. I think it's seen on the map.
but that was one of their supposed reasons for kicking up the prices, because they had to refurbish the tank.
I think that was $300,000 investment.
Yeah, this thing's right here. That's the typical tank.
Got it. Yeah, it's And at the same time, then you have a house burned down because there's no water.
That was a hydrant issue.
So the maintenance wasn't quite there either, was it?
I can say that's prevalent with the cities. Uh, Senator, the cities will sell us water for county systems with a master meter. Everybody outside of that master meter, they're on the county system, and we maintain ours. I mean, I think ours are A1 out there. But the cities themselves, just on the outskirts of their cities, they have what are called outside customers, where the county doesn't serve them. And Liberty Township has a large area like this. So the cities are selling water directly to township customers, and their outside customers are theirs. But their maintenance of that system outside of their city limits has a, I would say, from what I've witnessed through the years, that they do not pay as much attention to those, maintenance of those systems as they do inside their cities. The city of Niles is the same way. McKinley Heights, Dave, up in there, those are all Niles customers. You can just take a look at their fire hydrants and you can tell they haven't been painted for 20, 30 years. Whether or not they're operable, that sort of thing. And the same thing with Gerard out here in Liberty Township. You'll look at those hydrants and I mean, it's just a crying shame to see the condition these things are in.
We had one ex-fireman that lives in our township, comes to every township meeting. And oddly enough, drives around and does look at them himself and bring it to our attention. Hey, your hydrant's actually even facing the wrong direction. Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna help those customers. We send letters, we do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, but that's pretty prevalent throughout the county. If they are outside customers of a city, that the maintenance on them is below what it needs to be.
And there are EPA requirements that they do.
Right, right.
Couple. Just real quick for clarification, I want to make sure that you have a good understanding of it, and Gary just touched on it. Devin mentioned Liberty. So in Weathersfield, we get supplied water similarly to Liberty, but they're all not maintained by Trumbull County. We have City of Niles owning, building and maintaining lines. We have the City of Gerard doing the same, the Village of McDonald doing the same, and a lot of areas where Gary, through the Trumbull County Sanitary Engineer, does the same. So it's not a quick fix just to change that statute, because those entities still own those water lines. So there's going to be some sort of consideration or offset that's going to have to be had for them to get installed. But a lot of times the county project you're working on right now will fund entirely the installation of the line and then turn it over to the municipality for maintenance. And that's kind of complex as well.
Right, well, that's what we're doing up on Stillwagon
It
Road,
is.
yeah.
There's a number of areas.
Yeah, we're building it, but
So even
now
though-
City now can operate and maintain it, even though it's on the township.
Yeah, this is what you talk about regionalization, you have to bring in an engineering firm to sit down and do a plan. I mean, it's gonna be a long-term process.
Because they're gonna want paid for their infrastructure,
Yeah, they're gonna-
if they're even willing to give it up.
You're right, and you can't take it without paying for it, okay? And a lot of bonds and stuff are still out there being paid on these infrastructures and stuff. But you think about it though, a regional concept, you'd end, duplicating services, you could have, you'd be so much more efficient because you would only have one water department.
Does it count as eminent domain when one entity taken from another entity, both government?
I'd have to take a look at the law, and I don't know, it'd be hard, but we can't take something from another government.
But at least with 6119, you could establish that district.
Yeah.
For Trumbull County, and by the way, it could be both counties, that's probably even more complex. But for Trumbull County, and then you have one entity negotiating the outside rate for the unincorporated areas.
Yeah.
That alone would be a big step.
I think the way to go is 6119.
I agree.
Because I just think you're asking too much to get into 6115.
And the cities and the municipalities are gonna oppose that,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
But at least with 6119, well, whoever the entity is, the regional entity could then negotiate on behalf of all those areas. And by the way, it can include incorporated areas too, if they would rather have the regional entity manage their water and sewer. Some of the smaller
I would think that the cities of Niles and Youngstown are, you have to have them in this regional water authority. They're the largest, purveyors of the bulk water. So they would have to be part of the entire thing too.
Well, not necessarily, though, because they may not want to be.
I would think you would want their buy-in on it. But I can understand their reluctance to do so. Yeah,
So they, whether they participate or not, it doesn't preclude you from setting up that regional entity, though.
Yeah, I think, you have to have somebody come in, and you're not gonna be reinventing the wheel, by the way, because this was done in Toledo, it was done in Columbus, yeah, and I gave it to, I don't know. Prior to you being on the Board of Commissioners, I know I gave a plan to, the Board of Commissioners from Toledo, which I thought was, probably as close as you're gonna get to the valley, but I thought that was a good one to look at, because it kind of gave me a play-by-play.
and I would think the city of Toledo is in on their Toledo Regional
Oh, there,
Water Authority.
oh, there,
Maybe,
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why Youngstown and Niles would have to be in on ours. To make it work. But I can see what you're saying, Dave. We can still form this around them.
And then you negotiate
And then
one
you get
rate
pressure on
to the regional entity.
I have a couple questions. So how many customers are we talking about? Water customers for this regional? Just a ballpark
them.
number.
Currently, the county or combined district itself we're approaching 12,000 customers. So,
That includes city Warren.
yeah, but then you get the city of Warren. I don't know their actual
Well,
customer count.
that's gonna be my
yeah.
question. You're working over here in this section, and then you got the city of Warren, so you're still gonna have two different rates.
All I'm thinking is you could get some uniformity of rates by doing a regional system.
Well, we would want Warren in on this regionalization too, because they're a large producer of water. So we're not cutting them.
No,
out.
I understand.
I didn't hear.
You mentioned.
Okay, so Youngstown and Niles, the southern half supplied by.
So you're gonna
MPSC,
have to deal
the
with
northern
Warren,
half.
you're gonna have to deal with Niles.
Yeah,
and you're gonna
Warren
have
too.
Youngstown and Warren. Okay.
Yeah, Warren is a
Alright,
key
you're
player
gonna
also.
show rates. And the cost savings, where do you think they would be at? I mean, we all need to lower our rate structure for our water rates.
Along with that, though, you would have uniformity.
Oh, if you can get them all
If
to
you
agree
get
with
them
them,
all.
right?
Because if you look at this year, one of the reasons I know you formed this group was due to the fact that the water rates got really whacked as far as the customers weren't being charged enough to pay for the water rates.
The bulk water
But-
coming into us.
But this year, Warren raised theirs, how much? What was the
3%, I think.
Yeah, 8.3. Niles raised
There was
theirs
no justification.
with no justification.
Right.
Zero.
Now, they did have rate studies done in the past that said that, they're gonna do this gradual
Yeah, but if you
increase.
listen to what Matt.
Every
If
January
you
first
listen to
for
what
the
Matt
next
said, we're
5 years.
maintaining the line and that all we're doing is buying the water, okay? And I've had several conversations, where I don't know if they can justify those rate structure rates.
Exactly right, part of the weapons of water. Do it. When a bulk rate is passed through, they automatically tie a 40% increase. On bulk rate.
For some of them.
Yeah, but when it does, it floats the boat. Off the inside customer, they can keep their inside city customer rates low. On the backs of the outside user, and there has to be a change. Legally, I've been an advocate that show me the justification for rate increase. And they're very hesitant to giving you anything. They say that's the way, that's what it is, and you pay their, you know.
We're gonna get water.
Yeah, and it's just unconscionable for the outside users to just take it on the chin like that.
Keep in mind, there are many areas that the county does not buy the bulk and maintain the lines to, though. Those entities still do. It's very nuanced and complex. So it's not a straightforward, the county buys bulk and then, 1.4.
No, you're right, it's, I participated in all these rate studies short in the day. And, when you look at the MVSD, I have to tell you, not because I was the president out there, they're probably one of the best run public entities in the state of Ohio, because run off a game plan provided by the state auditor's office through a performance audit. They do everything by the book, but all of they're always planning, their lines are always being replaced and updated, their facilities are constantly being updated. And people say, well, why is that important? Well, talk to people in Brookfield. Their water lines, we're patching patches over patches in Brookfield. We need to get a system in place where we're looking at our rates, not based on what we're paying to Niles or Newton Falls or Warren. We need to be looking at not just what we pay for the water, but how much is it going to cost to upgrade our water lines? Because every time these water lines break, the cost is, people just don't realize how much water you lose that you're paying for, that the taxpayers are paying for every time these water lines break. We have to get to where we're setting water rates, not just based on the cost of the water, but also the cost of maintaining the same infrastructure. Yeah.
In Liberty, it was 3 weeks ago that the boil alert went out from Youngstown. You could not go to a single store, restaurant down through Belmont Avenue and get a Coke. All of the fountains were down. They shut it all down. McDonald's, Popeyes, all of them. Guarantee you, Youngstown's going to come back and want some more money next year for you guys. Guarantee it. Just because they didn't maintain the line, and once it broke.
Youngstown uses Public Financial Management, which is the same company that sets rates for the MVSD. So I can tell you that's why Youngstown's rates are as high as they are, because they're maintaining their infrastructure. Niles, not so much, okay, and but it's something that I think as the cost goes up, cost of water is only going to go up, folks. I'm just going to tell you, because chemical costs keep going up, EPA mandates keep going up. This new PFAS mandate that we're in litigation at the county for people. These mandates just are going to continue to increase the cost of water, and we're going to have to come up with some ideas, because our infrastructure here in the county, Trumbull County, we have a lot of infrastructure issues here. We definitely have to replace a lot of water lines. So we're going to have to come up with a plan. And this is going to, a couple of years, it's not going to be too many years. It's going to bite us in the ass. I'm going to tell you, because these water lines, a lot of these are cast iron water lines.
Oh, no.
We're talking, these are water lines, Commissioner, from the early 1900s. Okay, so
No, not any of ours.
no, but some of the ones.
But our oldest ones are like 1958,
Yeah.
1959, and they're out in Brookfield, those cast iron lines. Those are the ones that have
Close enough.
the most concern, to where we have most of our breaks on it, cast iron lines in Brookfield.
I had over at the MVSD, I had the pipe out there, excess pipe out there, we had pipe from like 1910, Wood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
So, but it's something that, it's just, you'll have all the support from the Chamber of Commerce, I can tell you that, because that's something we've been chirping on for years, but,
2 weeks ago, Dan Suttles and I were on a PUC road call. And it was Aqua. And measuring. Going to have substantial increase, guarantee it.
In Asheville, that's all the price.
That's.
So it's, those people are actually asking me to come over to our system. I don't know how that would work because Aqua in Majory also supplies the sewers.
What's that?
It's my understanding that in Majory, they actually supply the sewers as well because,
No,
no?
those are our sewer customers all in Brook.
Okay.
I don't know that Aqua has any sewer customers.
Well, they
in there.
do in the Columbus area. That was part of the call. I was trying to pick up.
Okay, all right, yeah, Aqua, they did start expanding out into the sewer business also, but not in Trumbull County.
Okay.
Didn't they get
My
Campbell?
mistake.
Is it Campbell?
Yeah, something happened down there. It was Campbell Struthers, one of those,
Campbell, I think they have sewer.
and, there's, yeah, I think it was Campbell. Okay, that they, at one time, I think Aqua was supposed to do what, the Village of West Farmington or something? Way back when, and then they got in there and they failed out because they figured out they couldn't make any money with us.
Help them out.
I remember when Hawk was with Geneva.
The offer is pretty much.
Yeah.
They buy us.
Yeah.
I guess I'll channel my internet. He always says it's much easier if something doesn't have to change code as opposed to changing code. So that's usually the kind of go-to first response. You already have something. Outside of that, if there's things that you want us to change, this splits our districts pretty evenly, it seems like. So both of us would have to be on board, and it seems like groups within both of our districts that would be happy and not happy, which is good. That way we're both kind of there. So I'm happy to do what you would like us to do, but we'll take direction. But this is purely essentially, if we were to introduce something, first question we're asked is what the locals, are they on board? So whatever you all negotiate decide, this would be relatively simple, just given that it only impacts this community, this area. But probably the more difficult thing is actually getting everyone to agree so we don't have opponents within the community. That makes sense. But whatever you all would like us to do, it's simple in that sense. So I'm happy to do either. It sounds like there's a couple different options legislatively or not with changing legislation. But it's what you all think is best.
Yeah, first, I actually would propose, we'd have to consider bringing an outside group in to do a study. And, it's just one of these things that, you have to have a game plan. And it is really complex. I mean, that's why every time they look at it, everybody just kind of throws their hands up and walks away. Because it is so complex. Like you said, how many people are servicing? Weathersfield Township?
I think same as Liver. I think we have 4.
I mean, think about the community. Water coming from 4 different sources. But consider one thing, it's all MVSD water. And they have 4 different districts in Weathersfield Township. There's 4 different districts. And each district pays a different rate for the water. I mean, it's insane. It really is. When you sit down and you look at it, it's insane. But it's going to take a lot of planning, and we'd have to get some buy-in from all the townships, and hopefully work with the cities. Like I said, I think with the cities, the thing that you can always keep this in mind, if the one-way water can be cheaper, is that the MVSD was pumping 40 million gallons a day as opposed to,
29 to 31.
29 to 31. The more water you purify, the cheaper it is. So that's one of the things that we always were talking about at the NVSP. So the more consumption you can get, you know, using one water source, the cheaper the water is going to be, at least from a purification standpoint. But with the age of our infrastructure in Trumbull County, the price of water is only one part of it. I mean, infrastructure costs, we have to start addressing aging infrastructure.
My preference would definitely be under one umbrella. So however legislatively we can help you with that. That does just it makes it so much easier for Ashfield, for example, to have this one and then do that to go. I can't imagine four. in one community. So if there is something that's going through that process under the current legislation that you think, okay, this needs to be. I also don't mind using legislation as a hammer to try to negotiate to use as well. So if that can be helpful also.
6119, I think, efficient for that. Of course, the problem is it's a court-centered process too, by the way. Doesn't go to the voters. But Matt keeps bringing it up, and it's one of the items that you have to provide the court to study. It's going to be hugely expensive. As the capital budget won't work. Are there any funding sources that you can think of? So that's going to be the key. Yeah, you're right. The stuff.
We can't do studies in the capital budget.
Okay.
But certain specific ones. I know the counties, I think, number one ask is the water and sewer study.
Okay.
Right. Well, it's for, water and sewer for Mosquito Lake. They're trying to develop that area, yeah.
So maybe a tad bit different study of this type. I did ask for clarification on what studies would be useful.
They're all disorder. That's why I was just looking.
Yeah,
He called it the cheat sheet.
it's a dirty secret, but
But see,
we don't like to know. But
we have
you know,
till
think about,
March 12th.
yes.
The application is not complex. If we could get our arms around what that engineering study might cost
And that's due March 12th.
Yes.
for this year. But the application is done.
Yeah, but before you do the study, shouldn't you reach out to the city of Warren, city of Now, Youngstown to see where they're at? I mean, why spend $300,000 or $500,000 on a study if they're not
Yeah,
gonna be for it?
That study is gonna need their cooperation too. Yeah.
You gotta get them on board.
And that's gonna be difficult, because you gotta keep in mind, now water, so you understand, you know, the water, when they, I don't know if I talked to you about this, but the water, when they sell water, the proceeds from the water goes to the water department, okay? It can't be used in their general fund. But cities traditionally will charge more for surplus water, you Rex mentioned this, so that they can keep, from a political standpoint, for those elected officials in the cities, can keep the water rates lower in the city itself. Sure. Okay, so,
The people outside,
And then we have to raise the county.
yeah. I guess that is their motivation, why they jack it up for the outside customers, correct? Those people don't vote for you.
I like
Yeah, I
that.
can raise their rate, they don't vote for me, so I can jack theirs up 40%. Keep these
Exactly.
people that vote for me, I can keep their rate low by charging more on the outside. and
That's
give
where
my
we need
voters.
to help. And the more fully
Yes.
funded your water department is, the less general revenue.
That's where we need to help, is not let these cities jack it up on us so high, because they're just arbitrarily doing it, and then we're stuck with it.
So two things. So we don't like to do studies, but feasibility, architectural design, environmental studies are they're part of a larger capital project would qualify. But usually the state likes to be last in dollars, not first. So if you were to come with, okay, county's going to spend X, this is the last 50,000, for example, for it. And then on that, yeah, I wrote down essentially capping. I'd be curious what suggested like language could be, to hear someone's point, if you cap, those always go up to that cap without necessarily a justification. But if we could limit, that would be a very interesting.
Yes, that would be very good. But now, Matt, didn't you research, there is no 40% written into the ORC anywhere.
I did not find it in the RC.
Yeah,
I believe there's an AG opinion where they can say you can go up to 40% or something.
Okay, yeah. That's the most we've ever seen is a 40% markup. And we don't know why the cities have settled on that, but because we can't find it anywhere. And maybe.
Somebody gave it away at one point in time.
We could get that down to, I would say 10%.
But we,
Because there's really no cost for them to send the water to this hotspot, to this master meter, and then the county takes over all of the operation and maintenance on the other side. I mean, it's just a money-making box right there for them that they don't have to do anything with.
Every week I go back and forth between making townships upset or cities upset. So this week is my OML week to be upset, so
All right.
that works.
I may, Tony, say one thing though, to even begin those discussions with some of those cities, we will have no information even to kick off those discussions. This study, I think that needs to be done, can be done on a county basis to look at their system, inventory their system, and see how complex this is. We need that done before we can even talk to Warren, Youngstown, and Niles. So I believe that study needs to be done regardless of how we proceed. You're not going to get their buy-in initially. We're going to go there with no information and try and get them to buy into something that may be
Yeah, but here's the
not
problem.
beneficial.
We spend all this money on a study and nothing ever happens, okay? And this water in this, the sanitary sewer department out here, you know, they don't have
I get it.
a large deposit of money sitting out here, okay? And to waste that money on a study that doesn't have a chance to go anywhere, I just don't, I don't buy it. I think you have to have some conversation and see if they're interested in it. And if they say no,
Nobody's interested in taking less money, so that's gonna be non-starter.
Didn't Eastgate just do a study similar, weren't they looking at regionalization, didn't they get some
I don't know how far.
ARP funds down there to do some sort of
They did.
study?
But it wasn't specific to be killed, was it?
I don't know, but we should go take a look.
I
at
mean,
it.
the study up in Mecca that we're talking about, that's, what's that, $500,000 we put in for that?
We reduced that down to, I think, 150,000.
That's even better.
Yeah,
Are you sure?
yeah, we did. Julie was, Julie,
the
I
last
was
thing was
talking to her about
500,000.
this. What is it? She got a
So if we're
little,
looking at that for this, guys, I mean, that's, I mean, you can't spend that kind of money and then have everybody say, oh.
right, well, we did take, it might have been taken down to 200,000. So I looked at that
That's
study
still a lot of
I did.
money, you know,
That study I did for that big Hubbard project out there, I did that for $250,000 of ARP funds. Now that one won't get used.
the
That-
ARP's gone though.
I know, but at least I have this study done and I can turn
That's
it in
it.
as part of my funding application for future rounds of figure out
Planning
how earmark.
purposes. I know it's
Yeah.
hard to stomach that. but
Because, and I had to know how
That's
much
where
that
we lack,
cost,
yeah.
what it's gonna cost
Whenever
out
we
there, and
can
we found
have-
out it was about 60 million to build this.
We
whole
have to.
project.
We need to know what those costs are, what the
Yeah,
replacement
but you're,
costs.
So that
the
study
only
could-
difference between that and this, you're dealing with, again, Niles, Gerard, City of Warren, Youngstown.
Yeah,
okay? That's, you know, what happens if one says no?
Here's another angle, if you haven't been sufficiently
Yeah, you're right.
confused.
I mean,
Niles got Warren in the thing.
somebody
Yeah,
needs
tell
to
them.
touch base with them.
There's, I can tell you, I was at the MVSD and I was president of the MVSD. And at that time, what happened was, there was a risk that the Southeast Water District, it was a competition between Niles and Aqua. And you'd be surprised what happens when there's a little competition, okay? When there's competition for water, the prices go down for water, okay? When there's no competition, the prices stay sky high, okay? Now, one of the things that I've often thought about, I don't know from an engineering standpoint if it's possible, but if we were able to take the county and just buy water from one source, and that would enable us to compete, have Niles compete against Warren. And even maybe Aqua, okay, you'd have 3 different water sources that you could have them all working together and buying from one source. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if anybody's even looked at it, but I can tell you from, at least from the MVSD standpoint, they could take on all of Trumbull County and it would be nothing to them, okay? Because they have the capacity, but the price of water would be way lower. I don't know if that type of engineering study has ever been contemplated or looked at, but the only time, I'm gonna tell you, was that Southeast Water District. I was at the MVSD at the time, And, I know Niles negotiated a lower water rate
Oh, yeah.
because they were afraid that Aqua was gonna take it.
Yeah, now sells us water for our southeast district at 0.88 of the inside rate. So they're actually selling it to us at less than they're selling to their customers inside.
That's out of fear, that's out of,
And the reason why
Yeah.
is because of that competition.
Yeah,
Because Aqua Ohio used to be the source of water for that whole district. And when Tom Holloway approached City now and said, hey, can you guys give me a better deal? I mean, he got them all the way down to below the inside rate.
I think we cut them out, cut Aqua by a
And
third.
we've been holding now to that,
Yeah.
we just renewed the agreement again
I was in ABSD, I did it.
a few years ago.
Well, I was the one that invited Aqua to speak with the commissioners.
You said yours is 0.88. Their big cars are inside people 1.4.
No, well, the inside rate is the inside rate, that's the 1 point. But we're getting it at 0.88 from that. And that's for that master meter that's right here.
So how do you clean up those 4 townships?
Down here, see
The
that
township
meter, you
clean
can't
up
find
water
that water.
supply. How do we clean that up?
Well,
What's that?
we started doing that. When we did a water tank over in Weathersfield, we thought we were gonna eliminate Youngstown with that tank. When we put that water
Yeah,
tower over there,
yeah.
yeah. And I think that was an engineering problem.
Yeah, well, after we did it, the people up on top of the hill up on. Well, their pressure wasn't high enough,
Yeah.
so we're getting calls here, 3, 4 a day, my pressure's down, I can't take a shower, this, that, and the other thing. So we had to take a section of that area in Mineral Ridge and put it back on the Youngstown water involved. But we got a lot of people off of the Youngstown water, but not all. But we'd like to completely shut that Youngstown valve. 'Cause
You're right, Commissioner, that's what,
Yeah.
that's
That's what's
So
costing us
who's
that money.
cheaper, Youngstown, Gerard, or Niles?
Niles.
Niles.
So, can we eliminate everybody else and just buy from Niles?
Almost.
Yeah.
Not quite.
We can't,
That would be the deal.
yeah, we can't do it up there in the Warren area.
No, not more, but down in these areas,
Yeah,
to help Liberty out in Weathersfield, where they got
yeah.
astronomical rates.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it shut the Youngstown valve about the last water that the county buys from. The last place where the county is buying water from Youngstown, down here in the Middle Ridge District.
Yeah, but what about Gerard? How do we eliminate Gerard? And you
This is Gerard service area out here.
Who owns that main right there?
We own to the north of that. That's the meter where we're selling water to Gerard through there.
That's your safety service area. pretty much, on everything.
Yeah, these are county customers, but the ones that are getting charged all that money, there are.
To answer your
customers out in
question.
Liberty.
Yeah, thought he would identify.
I tried taking over
Where
that
those- right.
system.
Right.
When we negotiated the last service area agreement with Gerard, I was saying, well, can the county just take over this system here that you apparently can't maintain? And you're getting all this bad press from all these people out in Liberty paying all this money.
What do they want then? 25 or 30 million
No.
dollars?
At the same time, we're negotiating that, we're negotiating this in the sewer. Because they take a lot of our flow from our, metropolitan sewer district down there in Gerard. So they're sort of saying, no, it's gonna stay status quo on water if you want status quo on sewer. So that's why we were kind of pigeonholed into, we gotta let this thing, even though we don't like it, we gotta let this thing stay the way it is, or we were gonna get nailed for sewer.
We're here today on water, but I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
Which would affect more people than the 1,500.
Yes,
I get it, but that's unfair to you guys. Your rate is just totally unfair.
Right, but that was the way the negotiation went. You had the sewer contract that was ending.
That's-
Affected a lot.
I would have never signed it.
And that area can be tied in, it's my understanding, to the southeast district.
oh, yeah.
Definitely.
And who
But-
pays
We're
that?
selling water to
You're
them
gonna
right there at
have-
the intersection of Tibbetts and,
Absolutely.
193 right now.
Klein's Farm has,
That county water that they buy
The
directly.
problem is, again, Gerard's gonna scream because they put that money into the, water tank, the tower.
That should be paid off.
That stuff's paid off.
That tower should be paid
Well,
off.
they're claiming there's still bonds on it.
Okay, it has to be pretty close to being.
So what do you say?
They don't want to give up the golden goose, is what he's saying.
They're not gonna, it's, even though that it can be tied in, they're gonna get heat from Gerard if they try to. take
I don't
Well,
know.
we don't have to take it, just lower your price.
it. Yeah. Or mandate that 40% go down to like 5 or 10.
I just.
And-
So it's the 10% cap, so it's actually 10% more than what they charge their municipal customers.
Exactly, and you can't raise that on outside rate without raising the inside rate. They gotta be on the.
I mean, that's no future, but what do you do about now?
For the increase.
On a 10% cap, address it. Gerard could,
If they wouldn't take it off
Gerard would only be able to charge 10% more. than
from
what-
here on, but
Yeah.
what do you do about?
Well,
that?
right now, they're at 40%, so if you pass it to make it 10,
I
then
understand,
Gerard's
but
gonna
how do
lower
we
that
get
outside
Liberty
rate.
down? How do we get their rates down?
if we take away that from
You'd have to
40% to
make it
10%, yeah, their rate's gonna go down, they're by statute.
You would just move it forward so that slowly but surely you would go into a ceiling of 10%. So you would lose the golden goose, you would know your 40% is there, but every time you raise your rate inside, you're encroaching on that 10% cap. So at some point, there's close to parity with that. 10%.
Unless the statute trumps the agreement, which I don't know.
And
that it would.
again, Problem is, when the county takes over, that's archaic, that system over there where Gerard's providing that water. It needs a lot of upgrades, even if we took it over, we'd have a lot of money in upgrades. It's a very complicated issue. I do think the quickest, easiest fix is the cap, what they can charge on surplus water. I do think that's. Unless they can have,
Statute would trump the agreements that he had.
well,
That's what Devin
it
does.
could, I don't know the answer to that.
How often are your agreements?
Pardon me?
How often are your agreements?
Last one is every 20 years, and they just re-signed it, I don't know,
2-3 years.
2 years ago, but I don't know if it was 20. I don't know
I'd
if
have
you
to,
guys
I'd have to
know.
go back.
20 years.
The
Yeah,
reason-
it
the
was a
reason
20 year.
people, they go 20 years is because of bonds and stuff like that.
Well, didn't Niles, one of their statements the last time was that they'll no longer do 20-year.
No,
The knowledge agreement is 10 years, the recent knowledge one agreement is 10 years, the recent Gerard one was 20 years.
Often we tie into the next.
Well, oddly enough, we're not part of it. Just the beneficiary, right? The agreement's between the county. So we're just a beneficiary.
But again, is what, you're still gonna be paying a surplus because Gerard pays, Niles sells it to Gerard, they mark it up to Gerard. And if even Gerard limits it to 20% to Liberty, you're still paying the other markup from Niles to Gerard, so two mark. That's why you really need to look at, and I, like I said, 6119 seems to be the cleanest way to approach it. Even if you had one entity then purchasing water from Niles or
But
Warren.
putting in the cap, let's say you put in a 10% versus a 40%, that gives negotiation for the formation of the 6-1, right? If they know, wait, we're losing our golden goose here, we're gonna have to play ball on the formation of these boosters. Otherwise, they're like, well,
Yeah, at some point.
you have to do that in order to give them a little leverage. Otherwise, you don't have as much leverage in the formation of the region.
No, you're right. You're gonna be leverage.
That's a much different legislative discussion though, because it impacts every municipality across the state almost versus just this area.
Yeah.
But leverage discussion.
Pretty sure, I think this is important to know. We establish a district under 6119. The commissioners no longer have control. It's turned over to a board of trustees.
That's it. Right.
It's its own political entity.
But they're on it. Commissioners are on it.
Yeah.
That could be good.
That can also be a good thing, right?
It's important to know.
I think it is.
It's,
So that takes effect tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction that you're discussing, you know,
Yeah.
but, you know, it's a long-term thing, you know, and what we need to do is try and find some relief now for the customers. And the other thing is, you know, Gary applies for all these grants for sewer lines, you know, the federal government's gonna have to start coming up, help us out with water lines. You know, we have to start changing those, you know, and we need to get to our federal people and say, look, we're gonna need help because there's no way that as a county we can afford that.
Well, I got some estimates, and it was from 10 years ago. I remember it was like the change out the cast center lines in Brookfield. The really crucial ones was like $1.5 million. That was from 10 years ago. So you're gonna say that's at least $2.5 million now. And this is money that we just don't have.
So that's when we're gonna have to go to the federal government and we need to address that sooner than later.
Yeah, that's aging infrastructure, and I wish they had a pot just for that one. Now, I do get grants. You know, I got that 4 million for that blueprint too out there.
Yeah, that was a new
I
one,
got 50,
wasn't it?
yeah, if it's new and you're expanding your
Yeah.
system, they simply, yeah, here.
Well,
you
now
know, money's easy,
Now
but
we
when it's
know,
replacing an old one from the
Right.
fifties, that's difficult.
More customers.
but
Oh,
we're gonna have to work
the
on
more
that.
customers,
Don't wait
Yeah.
till now.
Yes.
keep to the water, that's all we're,
Right.
Yes,
And that's
That's
tough.
our immediate.
That's having a unified front when you ask Dave Joyce and 6 senators for capital dollars from the feds. If there's one voice asking for this one thing. In comparison.
That's 5 years down the road. You have one voice.
Well, every 2 years. So every 2 years they have their.
Oh, no, I thought you was talking about the regional.
No, but if like you guys as commissioners were to ask only for infrastructure dollars from the feds for water and sewer, for example, versus, it depends on what your priorities are. But you could get, I mean, they gave Portland, what, 5 million from, so like that's a decent chunk that could go then to water and sewer expansion.
Well, you're right. We need to sit down and say, okay, this is what's important.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way that the county can afford to replace those lines. I mean, and you can't pass that on to the consumer. They can't afford it, you know. They have $700 water bills.
Commissioner, infrastructure is a big deal, I'm telling you. We're not even getting into it, but with sewers, we don't start dealing with I with these sewers, that's what you're paying, these sewer plants, we're just paying outrageous prices. A lot of it's just I. Yes, that's just ridiculous. We're gonna have to develop programs in that area too. Because just like the infrastructure with water, we have to start addressing the infrastructure with sewers.
yeah, the I is a huge problem.
Well, that's partially why we wanted to form this board and have all the trustees on it, so everybody knows what's going on. Just don't. Next Tuesday, raise the rates $5 per thousand gallon. I mean, we have to start educating.
Oh, I agree. Problem is, these water providers, they just come out of the blue. It's like you wake up on a Wednesday and you reach one rate, and by Friday, it's a new rate. And no explanation at all as to why the water rates went up. It's
That's
almost.
because they've always gotten away with it.
At what point do we ask the regional chamber, Eastgate?
I don't think Eastgate should be central to this thing. Correct, is that what you're getting at with that
Well,
question?
we have to.
The Eastgate is central to Mahoney and Trumbull, the whole valley here. I would think that they would be the central, entity that would see this thing through. That to be able to coordinate with all the other.
Oh, you're right.
entities
I can tell everybody,
To make this thing work.
at least 2 or 3 meetings a year, at least 2 or 3 meetings a year. The regional chamber board of directors, the issue of regionalization is raised, okay? Because we all hear about it from Lake to River and from everybody else, how important it is for us to address these issues and to be competitive. Of course, that's why we're fighting tooth and nail for these companies to come to this area. And I think that we start addressing some of these issues because we got prime property out here in Liberty, out here in Vienna, and this so, Weathersfield Township. And a lot of times the issue is infrastructure. We don't have the infrastructure to accommodate a company that wants to locate us. No, it's
Yeah,
definitely.
developments seem to be occurring in townships that longer than 70.
Yeah.
If you have water, including any economic development that comes in, I mean, they're huge. All huge. They're just gonna say, okay, we'll go send it out. Under control.
Oh, I agree. I agree. 100%.
I'll send you the bill. It should be this week.
Anything else? Anybody have? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
We're moving on. Thanks, sir.
As I mentioned,
Worst case, especially after.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
What?
You got a great shot.
Well,